Hello my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet the Holly Jolly Spiral Scrubby. This is a really fun project because you're getting portions of cotton yarns and scrubby yarn. And that's because we're using this particular yarn, Sugar and Cream Scrub Off. But you don't have to, and we'll talk more about yarns later. Now this is a nice size scrubby. It measures about 4.5 inches across. So it's the perfect size for scrubbing the dishes, or you can make some for the bathrooms to scrub the sinks and the bathtubs. And they're fun to make them in holiday colors. But of course, you don't have to. You can make them in any colors that you want. Now you can find the crochet pattern along with some pictures on my blog. And as always, you can find that link down in the notes underneath this video. To make some Holly Jolly Scrubbies, you're going to need some Sugar and Cream Scrub Off yarn. But you don't have to use this yarn if you don't want to. You can use just regular old cotton, and then you won't have the sections of the scrubby yarn on your scrubbies. Now this one has some white, some variegated red, some regular red, some variegated red and green scrubby, and some plain green scrubby. Well, I wanted some more green in mine, and so I used both the scrubby yarn and then also some regular green cotton that is also Sugar and Cream for this section. And I'll explain how that's done later on in the video. But you're going to need a total of 2 ounces to make one of these scrubbies. Okay, and this skein of yarn has, let's see, where did it go? 2.6 ounces. Okay, so you're going to need a total of 2 ounces to make one of our large scrubbies. Because remember, they're about 4.5 inches across, so they're a really nice size. And again, I made this in the Holly Jolly Colorway, so we're calling it the Holly Jolly Spiral Scrubby. But you can use any colors that you want. As a matter of fact, this Sugar and Cream Scrub Off has lots of different colors. There's blues and purples and greens and lots of different colors with the sections of scrubby already attached to the cotton. And again, you can make them in all cotton if you want to. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You need a needle for weaving in ends and putting it together. And then of course you're going to need a pair of scissors. We're going to begin with about a 10 to 12 inch tail of yarn. And that's because when we go to put it together, we're going to need that, all right? So then we'll make our slip knot. And we're going to loosely chain 21 chains. All right, so we have our long tail of yarn about 10 or 12 inches, and we're going to chain 21 chains just a little bit loose. Now we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. 1, 2. Go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. And now we're going to single crochet in each of our chains, working all the way across our chains. 1 single crochet in each of our chains across. I single crocheted in each of my chains across. We began in the second chain from the hook, so we have 20 single crochets. We're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to be working in the back loops only for this row and every row on our project. So we're going to go in the back loop. This loop on this side, these are your front loops. These are your back loops. And so in our first single crochet, we're going to stitch 2 single crochets, working in the back loop only. Now we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets across. And again, we're working this row and every row in the back loops only. And you'll know that you're doing it right if you see this ridge right here. All right, so we'll continue stitching a single crochet in each of our single crochets across, working in the back loops only. When you reach those last 2 single crochets, we're going to stitch them together. So we'll go in the first loop of that back loop of our next single crochet and pull up a loop. Then we'll go in the back loop of the last single crochet and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go through all 3 and chain 1. All right, and this is where you're going to begin to notice how it's going to go at a curve. We stitched 2 in our first single crochet, 1 in each across, and then we stitched the last 2 together. So we still have 20 single crochets, and again we stitched them all in the back loop only. Let's do row 3. We've chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and again we're stitching in the back loops only, and we're going to stitch our first 2 stitches together. So we're going to go in, pull up a loop, go in the next one, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. And now we're going to single crochet across until we reach that last single crochet. And again, we're stitching in the back loops only. I've stitched a single crochet in each of those stitches across till I reach that last one. We have one we haven't stitched in yet. Again, stitching in the back loops only. And in this last single crochet, we're going to stitch 2 single crochets again in the back loop only and chain 1. Now, if you look at your work, it's going to be slanted. This side is going to go this way and this side is going to go up that way. If that's what it's doing, you're doing it right. So now what we're going to do for row 4 is we're going to repeat what we did on row 2. So we've chained 1, we're going to turn our work, we're going to stitch 2 single crochets in the back loop of our first single crochet, 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets across, and again, every row we're working in the back loops only. And the reason we're doing that is we want those ridges for when we use this as a scrubby so it can help scrub even better. All right, so I'm going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of my single crochets across until I reach those last 2 single crochets. We place 2 in the first, 1 in each of the next until we reach the last 2, and we're going to stitch the last 2 together. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, go in the next one, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through all 3 loops and chain 1. All right, so now we're going to turn our work and we're going to repeat what we did on row 3. So we'll stitch the first 2 together, again working in the back loops only. We'll stitch 1 in each of the single crochets across, and then in that last single crochet we'll stitch 2 single crochets. We stitch the first 2 single crochets together, 1 in each of the next till we reach that last one, and in the back loop of that last stitch we're stitching 2 single crochets and chain 1. All right, and every row will have 20 single crochets. And see how this row slants this way and this row slants this way? And you can see those indentations and those ridges. And it looks almost the same on both sides. So if you decide you want to change colors or change, like I want to add in this yarn now so I can have some scrubby areas, it's really quite simple. We're going to take this chain 1 out. We'll cut our yarn. We'll bring in our new color. Snug that down. Chain 1. And then we'll turn and just continue on. And then we'll come back and just weave those in later with our needle. And so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 2 and row 3 like we did here. And you're going to continue to repeat that up through row 22. And that's 17 more rows. And so what you'll be doing is repeating row 2 and row 3 for 17 more rows, alternating every other row. And that will get you to row 22. So here is my actual scrubby. Of course, I began with that green as a demo. Of course, and I ended with green here. So I started with white, and we did the scrubby yarn. There was variegated in there with red, and then the solid green. And you need to be on row 22. And so if you turn it over and look at it, you can see your ridges like this. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 rows. Just a quick way of learning how to count when you've done back loop only rows of single crochet. All right, now on this end you're going to cut your yarn, leaving another long tail, and this one's quite a bit too long, so I'm going to cut that. That was just the end of that skein of yarn, and then we'll go ahead and tie this off. All right, so now we're going to do what I call the assembly. You're going to take the top left corner and pull it to this corner down here. Okay, then we'll take the bottom right corner and fold it this way. You'll have a yarn tail on both ends. Now we're not going to be using these two tails yet, okay? We want to line this up. We're going to bring in a different yarn. It's the same yarn, but not the two tails. And we'll go in the first here and in the first here. And we'll bring this in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet across, joining these two edges together. So we'll go through the first one on this side and the next one on this side, and we're going to stitch a single crochet. And we'll do this all the way across, and it will form a little tube. Because we'll be able to put our hand through, and it'll be a little bit of a tube, okay? All right, so I usually kind of pinch it up like this, and it makes it a lot easier to find those stitches. So we're just single crocheting the two edges together. So I've stitched them together with single crochets. I'm going to cut my yarn and tie off. And it's a good idea to go ahead and weave in these two ends just to get them out of your way. So I'm going to go ahead and take my needle and secure these ends in. I weaved those ends in. I'm all tidied and sewn in, and you can see it just looks like a tube. Well, what we're going to do at this point is we're going to use these two ends that we started with. All right, so I'm going to thread this one onto my needle, and I grabbed the needle with just a little bit bigger eye just so it'll go a little quicker. All right, so now we're going to come on this end, and we're just going to go in and out those stitches and gather the end closed. And of course my needle's not real pointed, so I'm trying to be careful as I go. There we go. And back around almost where I started. There we go, there's where I started. Well, I'll get in there. Now we're going to pull it nice and tight so there's no hole. And just make sure it's securely weaved in. Because we don't want our cute little scrubby to come undone while we're doing the dishes or scrubbing the sinks. Okay, now what I do once I'm happy with that is I'll go down inside. Oh, that came unthreaded. Let's pop that back on there. There we go. Nice good pull. All right. Just making sure it's nice and secure. All right, now we're going to drop that one off. We're not cutting it yet. And now we're going to do the same thing on this other side. So we're going to go around and gather this one closed as well. So now we've gathered closed both ends. We're going to take it and smash it. All right, and now you can see how it looks like our scrubby. And you want to make sure everything's centered, because we're going to now take this and go all the way through to the other side and make a couple of stitches just to hold that together. Isn't that fun? All right, and now we'll do the other side and do the same thing. We'll go in, pull it snug, and back to the other side. All right, so now it's nice and snug. It looks really nice. And we're going to do the last portion here with what I call a stay knot. So we're going to do 1, 2, then we'll take the 2 and do that twisty knot. Get it down in there as close as you can and then clip it. And then I usually try to work that knot into that hole so it can't be seen. All right, and so that's how you make our Holly Jolly Christmas spiral scrubby.